Cool. Man, that room looks cool as fuck behind you.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I was gonna say my little pleasure room, I guess you could call it, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, in fact, I should have taken a better video before I didn't think about it, like, because I got a sort of a video of my downstairs. Let's see here. So here's there we go. That's my basement. So you can see there's machines like back there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I'm jealous, man. You have a basement. I'm like, in Houston, we don't. And I'm squeezed into an 11 by 11 room. And just to kind of give you a little bit better of an idea, too. So,
yeah. Well, there's a lot of cool stuff squeezed in that room, man.
Yeah. And as I say that,
yeah,
my first one I built back in 2001, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my baby. And then, of course, got the nice little sit-down Cruising USA here as well.
I'm assuming that one is also like, it has all the games on it too.
No, actually, so that one I have not modded or done anything to. It's actually running the original PCB.
Wow.
And I've got the Cruising World, Cruising USA, and oh god, what's the other one? Like, it's like an Off-Road Thunder.
Okay.
And all the PCBs are interchangeable.
Oh.
So yeah,
Oh.
it's actually it's yeah, pretty cool. But the thing that sucks, man, is having to go in the back and then swap it.
Yeah.
Yeah, old school arcades used to be able to have a PCB switcher, and you could just switch between the PCBs.
Right.
For the cruising cabs, you can't do it. But I wished you could. But man, I'll tell you, it's awesome to have. I mean, it's I've restored it, got it back to 100%. It's amazing. It's my favorite one.
It looks really cool. Well, you see, you're telling me that you couldn't figure out some kind of way to get like the Game Genie yourself, like on the top of the cabinet, just like plug in your
to switch them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish, man. And actually, what's funny is, so inside my shop, I've got a Cruising World, and it's just the shell. So I'm actually trying to work on that to find a way to get that to switch power-wise. But if not, then it's going to end up getting modded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have it. I thought about that. I was like, what? Because in fact, the light gun should be here hopefully today or like very soon. So I can like give you I was hoping it would be here yesterday, so that I could like let you know how it was working out. But the only other thing I could think of was putting back here was like, a sit down thing where you could have driving or whatever. Which that's like, but that's next level. Obviously, you're several levels beyond me with all these things.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I've been doing it since, oh man, I used to restore cabinets in the 90s. And did my first mod, which was 2001. And outside of that, you're talking 25 years now. Not to reveal my age of being 47, but yeah, not a day over 22, man.
Same. I'm 37 myself, so
we're not far off.
Yeah. We grew up with the same stuff, I think. What do you recall? What like what the first game was that really like grabbed you and like caught your attention?
Yeah, so actually, and I'll go back to the arcades. So I loved Punch-Out in the arcade. That was one of my favorites. And then even as I say, going into Commando, old school, 83, 84 time frame. Used to spend a lot of quarters on Commando, and hell, even Dragon's Lair. Which Dragon's Lair was a little different. I caught myself in the beginning dropping tons of quarters in there and literally just watching a cartoon until I figured out how to play it.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, those three were my favorite ones, man. And I still, I love to play Punch-Out today, the arcade version.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my top-notch three.
Nice. So you said your first cabinet you modded was 2001?
Correct, you got it. That was the first one I built. Which I'm actually 6'4", and I'm gonna kind of spin my camera around. So this cabinet is roughly, you're talking 6'6" in height.
Okay.
And I mean, it's huge, man. It was my first one that I wanted everything on it.
Yeah.
So I can actually attach a steering wheel to it. I've got the trackball, the Tron stick, 2-player setup, functional coin door on it as well.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my baby, man. And actually, even the marquee, I'll throw at you a little something I experimented with.
Yeah.
Was I put a white black light in there. Okay. So it's actually lit by a white black light.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is actually a little different. And you see, it's not, I see like most marquees, they look washed out.
Sure.
But this one, as you can tell, I mean, the blacks are black. it's a vivid, marquee. Looks really good, and that's something that we have. I say as a whole, even as my company, we focus on a lot of things where you don't get that kind of bland quality,
Yeah.
But I mean, even as I say that too, just so you can kind of see a little bit more of a closer look at it. With functional coin door, I've got an operational black light in front of the Tron stick because I hate the blue LEDs, man. They're super bright.
Yeah.
But yeah, having that white, the normal black light, and actually and so but the black light there. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, the black light there lights up the Tron stick because the LEDs. I love LEDs, man, but LEDs are just super bright.
Yeah.
You get kind of blinded standing in front of it.
Sure.
But yeah, just little things here and there. I got a couple of wireless guns on it as well.
Nice.
So they're, I say older technology, EMS Top Guns they don't make anymore. Like completely wireless. They look like little Beretta guns. But yeah, that's my baby, man. And then just to throw out, nice little ghost face on top with a nice little Deadpool head up there.
and you got an extra life and a power up there.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Hey, you never know when those will come in handy, right?
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah, and I was gonna say, so I as a arcade company owner, man, that's my big thing is to cover all aspects, as you can tell with everything I've got in here.
Yeah, it just makes me so happy that people like you are out there doing this, because the arcade is just such a thing that I know that it's so hard to find in the wild. Like you've got like barcades, which are cool, but it's not really the same thing as like a place where it's just like there to just like eat your quarters. Like that's the only job, is just eat a bunch of quarters and people hang out. And like I'm glad that you're keeping it alive.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, it's one of those things they say. If you don't, if you have a job you love, you never work a day in your life. And it was one of the greatest investments I made. So I'll kind of go back a little further too. When the arcade industry kind of, I say, collapsed, right? Like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. When
I had to get away from the restorations and all that, I actually switched gears and I became an asset manager.
Okay.
So my degree is in business management. And I did that for about 13 years. And then I said, you know what, in 2013, I was like, let me try it again. Let's see if we can bring this whole retro thing back. And started up in 2013, started just fabricating cabinets, doing complete build outs, did some restorations. I mean, obviously it was hard to find cabs. And when you did, they were rough, man. Obviously you're talking 20, 30 years old.
Sure.
And yeah, it was something where I gave it a shot, and now here we are, 10 years later, still rocking and rolling, man. Love my job, and technology keeps me on my toes, as we talked about before. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely been, I say, one of the greatest investments and decisions I made in my life, and if you would have told me 10 years ago I'd be running 10 years strong, I would have been like, okay, sure, let's give it a try and see what happens. I wouldn't have believed it, but yeah, here we are. I'm still rocking and rolling and covering every aspect: restorations, arcade one-ups, mod kits, light gun kits, driving kits. I mean, pedestals. You name it, we do it.
Yeah. And from my experience, like you do like wonderful work. It's a beautiful board. Like the deck that I got is really great So for the viewers, in fact, it's right. I think this is before this video might have been before I modded it. This is hard to this direction. There we go, that one. So that's the Turtles machine, and I think this is a pre-mod, but with the mod on it, like it's fucking awesome. The sound is great. It looks amazing. We've had hours of fun finding all the weird games you never heard of before. It's like just pick a weird Japanese game, or like a name that's in Japanese that you can't read at all, and what's this game going to be like? And it's just it's been forever just like sitting down there and doing that.
Oh yeah, and I had a customer who has become a really good friend, and we were talking a while back, and he said, man, I did the math on this. So if I actually played every single game on here for 2.5 minutes, he goes, it would take me almost 37 years to play every single game. And I said, now you see why I don't test them. I'm like, I can't go through 15,000 games. But as I say that, we do a lot of testing with our images. But I'm like, man, to think when he broke it down, it hit me as a reality check of, Holy smokes, man. That's a lot of games for minimal amount of time that would take you decades to cover. So hopefully you have enough games to cover until you're about, what, 75, 77 years old?
Yeah, well, if I only spent, 2 minutes on each one, right?
Yeah. Hey, and 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. That's a lot of time on a game nowadays,
That's fair, yeah. which is a real shame. I think that I just watched a whole someone play through Shadows of the Empire, like not the whole game, but like just like kind of summary of it, and like part of it is like you go through. It's like some of these things are not great, but because some of the things are not great, other things should really shine because like this part's really good. And like you can't just get all the ice cream at the same time, right? It's like there's got to be some kind of like, okay, the whole thing's not great. It takes a little while. You got to drag it out. The payoff.
Yeah.
It's about the payoff,
Oh yeah, and that game, I'll tell you, even going back, I never really owned an N64, but friends obviously had them, and that and Rogue Squadron. 2 of my favorites, man. I love Rogue Squadron. I think the second one was good. Once they went past that, the third got kind of, but
Rogue
1 and 2,
Leader.
Yeah, love them, man. Those were 2 that, and of course, too, for the 90s, back then we didn't really have Star Wars anything. They came out with that expanded universe, and when that Shadows of the Empire came out, that was innovative. That was one of those things that we were like, oh, finally, we got something really cool, and it wasn't blocky, it looked good, it flowed good, but yeah, it definitely took quite a bit to get through that game and beat it.
Oh man, especially if you on Jedi, if you were actually trying to beat it for real. Like I think the Gladiator droid crushed my soul, and I gave up I got to the head, and it crushed my soul, so I think I stopped.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and even too, later on with Xbox, when it came out, when they started doing all of your like your battlefields and all that, oh man, those were phenomenal. I still actually play those today on my original Xbox. Yeah. So yeah, love those, man. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I will say that, just even going back, you're talking almost 20 years of no Star Wars anything. So yeah, that time when they reintroduced that and everything else, it was time, man. It gave us some good memories.
Oh, you're telling me, man. I was all in. I read the book, and I had like a lot of the figures, and like I had some of the micro machines probably too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's funny. I'm in a lot of Star Wars groups on Facebook, and I see a lot of these collectors, trying to sell stuff like that, the micro machines, the '90s Kenner stuff, the reissues, all that, and yeah, man, it was a great time,
Yeah. So Dave Filoni, I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm in Pittsburgh now, and Dave Filoni is from here. He went to a local high school. Yeah, so we're very proud of our neighbor being now, I guess, pretty much head of Star Wars, right? That's like his job. He's actually head of Star. That's pretty cool. And so hopefully he's going to guide Star Wars in like a good direction. We just talked about see if we agree. What's the best Star Wars thing that they've made? Maybe, well, modern for sure, but maybe ever. I feel like there's one thing.
So, I'll say this. Let me start with lightsaber battles. Going into that, I actually love the Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan. That to me is awesome as it gets.
Yeah.
If we go into movies, I'll tell you my favorite would be Empire.
Sure.
Empire Strikes Back. Very, kind of dark. But the newer stuff has been a little different. I like the new stuff as well, but for the ones that were kind of purists for so long, the new stuff really has changed a lot. But it's been good. I love The Mandalorian. I'll tell you that Mandalorian series was great. I like the Book of Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. So I think those would probably be the 4 top on my list.
So have you watched Andor?
So I started to watch it. I didn't get all the way through it. I liked it. I saw, I think, 3 episodes of it, which was good. And then my wife was like, well, why are you watching it without me? So I was like, okay, I'll wait for her. And then, of course, didn't quite get back to it.
Oh, man. It's the best Star Wars that they've ever made.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Like,
so now I'm going to have to dip back to it, especially the holidays coming up.
oh, man. Yeah, when you get some time, do yourself a favor. Watch Andor. We just talked about it on a different episode of this same show. Like, it is, like, it's embarrassing for everything else that they put out with Star Wars, like in the last, since the original Star Wars, honestly.
Okay, yeah. I'm definitely going to check it out. Because I know, too, they've got the new trilogy coming out, which I don't know how I feel about that one. It's just an extension of the last three, but which the last one they made was really odd with the whole Palpatine aspect to it.
Like the meme of fucking, what's his face saying, somehow Palpatine returned.
Yes. Oh,
like,
yeah.
Come on. Like, oh, man. Just, oh, wow.
It was, yeah, and I mean, the whole thing, it was almost like watching it, you're in some, I don't know, dream mode or so. It was weird.
it's like, if this is Star Wars, does this mean that society is collapsing?
Yeah. It's, I mean, one of those things that I was like, okay, like the first one too that they put out was very reminiscent of the original Star Wars. I felt like all they did was remake I say the storyline, but they really didn't even remake it.
It's the same exact movie.
But yeah, exactly. You know, it was one of those things that I was like, okay, I'll try it. You know, and then getting into the second, and then the third one that they did, I was like, all right, guys, y'all are kind of, I don't know, going left field here.
like so for me the second one it's kind of like the Matrix, like the execution of the Matrix trilogy, not the original one but all three.
Yeah.
So it's like if the third one was good, the second one no one would have people would have been like, yeah, sure. But because the third one doesn't make any fucking sense at all. The second one makes the second one look stupid because it's like the second one has interesting ideas, I think, right? Like the ideas are like, whatever you think, like life doesn't always work out the way you think it's going to work out. Like that's the main concept in that movie, which really comes through in a lot of the parts where it's like, you know, you think that Rey's, it's like, oh, who is Rey's? It's like doesn't matter. Like her parents are nobody. It doesn't fucking matter. Like that was the idea, right? Like that she looks in the mirror and it's her. Like that's all that matters. It's you. Like so. Yeah. The Force is with everybody. Like that kid at the end with the broom and he looks like a Jedi looking at the sky. It's like these are cool ideas. Also, like, you can't just like disobey orders from a commanding officer and expect everything to turn out well. Like, everyone got killed. That makes sense. Like, people are upset. They're like, she was being. It's like, no, she doesn't have to tell him shit. She should be like, yo, go over there and sit down until I tell you to stop sitting down.
Yes. Yeah, because and you know, I mean, when they started going into the whole Skywalker part of it, I was just like, man, it's one of those things where you don't really think that you're going to have storylines that don't make sense and somehow they're going to like come together, but you can't force something to come together and think it's going to make sense. Because for us, you know, I say the purists again out there, the ones that love the original and even the second trilogy, it was just odd. Like you're watching like, how did we get here? Am I in dream mode or what? Yeah.
And I also never thought, like, so my teenage self would never have defended the prequels, right? I would have been like, the original shit is the only way, and the prequels are bullshit because it retconned a bunch of stuff that we all, in the dark times, came to love and cherish. Like, whenever Disney bought it, people were like, oh my god, they're changing stuff. And older fans were like, yeah, what else is new?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like original, it's like no one knows. All the newer fans don't remember. Like, oh, Boba Fett used to be like so fucking cool because that's not even his name. Like he's not even not even a Mandalorian. Like that's not even it. Like that's so. I don't know.
Yeah, because especially with Boba Fett, man. You know, I mean, I will say, for me, he was always one of my favorites. And sadly, you know, he had like, 7 minutes of screen time in the original trilogy. And always one of my favorites. You know, I think we all yearn for more of him. And, you know, it was something where even later on when they started, you know, kind of diving into him a little more, I was just like, man, I don't know how I'm feeling about this whole kid aspect with him. And then, you know, it got a little bit weird in the prequels. I mean, it really did.
Yeah. I mean, and I get, like, if you are George Lucas, you want to be able to just do whatever you want with the thing you created. And I get that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know, but it would have, when that happened, I remember at the time thinking, like, you're kind of disrespecting all the people who were, like, trying to support this whole thing this whole time by, and then so I do understand how people feel now, where they're like, you can't just, it's like, yeah, we already went through this.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's, and seeing, too, I know that a lot of things that Disney has taken on, they've gone off left field. And, I say with the Marvel and stuff like that. And, I wish that they would really have stuck to, and especially with Star Wars, going into how you had Mara Jade in the side stories, the comic books, things like that. Like, man, the universe was so immense that I was like, stick with it, stick with these storylines. But they split it up and kind of took from this and took from that. And same thing they did with a lot of the Marvel stuff too, so it got really weird really quick.
yeah, and the problem is, like, I think with such a huge, was trying to make so many things at once. Like, they're trying to make so many different properties, like, come out at the same time, where it's like, that doesn't even, you can't divide everyone's attention that much. Like, you can't,
right.
It's not, money doesn't just appear because you made a new thing. It's like, you
exactly.
So, like, whenever there's 40 different shows, like, no one can watch all of them. So you're not getting everyone's money all the time.
Right, exactly. It's too much, too fast, too quick, too soon.
And when you do that, like, then now you have all these different teams doing different things. So it's like, when you watch Andor, which is, again, the best Star Wars thing since original trilogy shit.
Okay.
When you watch that and you watch Mon Mothma in that, the actor, she is just, it's fucking killing it, incredible. Like,
oh, wow.
You can totally see how that character evolved into, like, the person in Return of the Jedi who's just, like, so burnt out and, like, just kind of staring, sort of, and describing the horrors of war and shit. Like, it makes sense. And then, like, you watch, I mean, and I liked Ahsoka, but, like, whenever, like, the parts with the same actor playing the same part later, you're like,
right.
I'm thinking, I feel bad for the actor. I'm just like, she has to be saying, like, can we go back to Andor? Like, this is, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, because I was happy too. I mean, I will say, like, with the Mandalorian, the steps that they took, even with that one, having, I say, going into kind of the dark times of it, and then of course the later seasons, they got a little weird as well. Like, they kind of lost track of it. But man, like, the beginning, the first couple episodes were just amazing. The darkness, the bounty hunter aspect, and all that was phenomenal. I mean, hell, even the first episode, when he gets his first bounty, it was amazing. But yeah, it's definitely something they veered off. And when it went to the Andor, I heard great things about it. But yeah,
I really think I think that for me the main veering off for the Mandalorian was the problem for that and Book of Boba Fett was just trying to shoehorn him into Book of Boba Fett rather than just leaving them as separate things. Because if those two episodes in Book of Boba Fett are in the Mandalorian series, then the whole, like, no one would be confused at all. But, like, if people didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, they're like, wait, so I thought that, so it doesn't, like, that didn't really help anyone to do that,
Right. Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, even thinking, too, that, when they started to introduce Boba Fett to it, I'm sitting here as a fan thinking, how did all this tie in? Then thinking back to the stories, the comics, and all of that, and it was totally just, thrown in there to then spin it off, which I think the Book of Boba Fett was good, but it could have been so much better, man.
Oh, yeah.
It had so much potential. And then now it's kind of, I say, died out, in the sense of you really haven't heard much. But I know The Mandalorian now, the next season is going to be a movie. So that's going to be interesting to see where they go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that a couple days ago, and I was like, huh, okay. So I guess basically that's going to be, well, I say the last of it until they spin something else off of it. But that'll be very interesting to see how a movie works out with it.
Okay, interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Arcade games. Have there been any custom mods that have been particularly like a headache or like really weird or cool that you've had that people have asked you to do?
So I'd say the weirdest and hardest one is probably, there's a TMNT. We had a customer who wanted to do a alternating Switch and arcade setup. So we had to integrate like the Switch components into it as well as the normal arcade components. Yeah, it was tough. It definitely took us a long time, and then we had to make the panel. It was about 4.5 inches wider than our normal XL panels, which our XL panels are already 2.5 inches wider than the stock. So you're talking 6 inches wider, 3 inches on each side. Yeah, that we had to do for that. And that was a challenge because we had never done anything like that. But we finally got that one done, sent it out to the customer. He connected his Switch. Now he can alternate between the two, which is awesome for his kids too. So he said it was for his kids, but I'm sure it was for him.
So you can play the Turtles Switch game on the arcade sticks, is what you're saying?
Exactly. So like with the Switch, you basically hit a button that switches between them,
right?
And you can go back to the mini PC or you can use the Switch, whichever one.
Interesting. So the Switch is reading the wireless signals from the board as Switch controllers.
Exactly. So basically, when you plug it up, like the joystick serves as the thumbstick that's on the Switch, and then the buttons, of course, correspond with the buttons that are on the Switch as well.
Sure.
So yeah, and then you can just flip a switch, and it goes right back to the arcade setup. So you're back on the mini PC.
Nice. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, dude, that was one of the toughest ones. I mean, we do. I would have to say, on a scale, percentage-wise, we probably do 70% of our jobs are custom. That being anything from our arcade pedestals to the cabinets. Like we just actually finished up a Castlevania 35th anniversary NES style cab, like the VS cabs, and it's taken everything in me to not bring it home. But yeah, it is a awesome arcade, man. It's got all the Castlevania 2D games on it. So yeah, that one we're actually selling. It's one of the few that we actually built that's not sold.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one is exciting.
Yeah, like if you have stuff like that you want to plug, you can send me like files. I can put them in the video right here. You can, as they're talking, I can have them flashing up on the screen if you want.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I'll definitely send you over some pictures of it as well. Yeah, because that thing is awesome, man. And I'll tell you too, it's the same size as the original VS cabs, which is phenomenal. But outside of that, it's a one-player setup, 4 buttons, runs a mini PC, so it's actually running all the Castlevania games 2D up to.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So all the important ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, none of those 3D ones, but I know some people out there love the 3D ones, but I'm old school, so I love all the 2D. Yeah, side scrollers.
Yeah, so sometimes my band and I will take upon ourselves to try to conquer one particular game like all together, like we used to. Like, I don't know, you remember like the times whenever you would all be at someone's house and they just got a game, because games were fucking still $60 back in the day. For those of us who don't recall. And you'd all, gather around and take turns trying to get further and further in the game. Like, we do that still, and I think it's a lot. It's a lost. I don't know kids. Do kids still do that? I don't know kids.
I was gonna say, and I have a daughter, but she's way too young. But it makes me wonder too, because me and my friends, we used to do that with Goonies on NES, Kid Icarus, games like that where we would kind of go through, and of course back then you got codes. So it's like, hey man, I just cleared this. Here's the code, and we would, go to each other's houses and try to bang out the games. And yeah, man, those were good times. I don't know if kids even do that anymore. I doubt they do.
Yeah, it makes like a whole community of people where it's not just your friends, but it's like maybe if you happen upon another group of kids and they're playing the same game, you'd be like, oh man, you guys got this far. Like it's a whole thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I look back, and those were some of the greatest times, man. Being, I'd say in the 80s, NES coming out, and of course after the collapse of Atari. So, being able to have NES and all of us just jumping on stuff like that, man, and the graphics, of course, back then were just amazing. Like, my God, look at all the colors, But yeah, definitely something that, I think kids today, they unfortunately, they miss a lot of that. You know, the bonding, I say the teamwork. You know, I don't think kids have that today.
Yeah, and the teamwork, and also the bullying. That's like, I think, healthy bullying, where it's like if your friend is sucking at this video game, it's motivational to like really get on their case about it, because then, you know, they have something to motivate them. You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because, you know, it's funny. Me and one of my friends was talking about that the other day, of how, you know, back then, 80s and 90s, you know, you had that friendly bullying that you could call each other names. You were good. You know, nobody was bothered or offended, and we were thick-skinned, man. You know. Yeah. So luckily, I can still do that with my employees too.
Yeah. Well, and I train jiu-jitsu, and so me and my coach really like we talk about the importance of talking shit on people that you're competing with and that are your friends. You know, so it's like it's a motivational aspect of like, and you look within the boundaries of what the other people are comfortable with. You just like try to piss them off in as friendly a way as possible.
Yeah, oh yeah, and you know, I mean, even thinking back to I played high school football and baseball, and even with all that, you know, I mean, there was always the competition aspect. There was always who's better, and you strive for more based on those friendships that you had. You know, you always wanted to be better than the next guy. Yeah. You never wanted to be the same or even as that person, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a different mentality, which I never thought would change. But then again, as I say that, I'm getting older, and I'm like, man, what is happening here? You know?
Yeah, and of course, there's to a degree that's there, like, you know, there's a healthy amount of that, and then there's, you know, whenever people become like obsessed with their own egos, then it's like, okay, we need to bring it back. Like that's, and I think a lot of the backlash against what we're talking about is like people who like have taken it way too far.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Agreed. Yeah. You know, and it's one of those things, we look back to when we were growing up, and our parents always said, oh, yeah, the world's different and things are changing, you know, and we looked at that and we were like, okay, y'all are old, and now here we are, and we're like, are we there?
Oh, yeah. Well, exactly. And every time I like have in these conversations, I'm like, yeah, this is actually everything's just the same, though, because this is what older people just always say. It's like, you kids, you fucking goddamn kids, with the music.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's kind of like, too, on Facebook when I'm seeing people posting, like in my Gen X groups, they're like, oh, I remember when all these Facebook fields were, or all this Facebook area was fields. And I'm like, oh, man. So now I'm seeing it online, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one of your Facebook page was only for people in college, and you couldn't look at other schools' pages at all. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the funny thing is, to think back, I'm like, man, and that was, 16? I hate to say, 16 years ago, 07-ish. And then I think it was like 09, maybe 2010, when things started going around to maybe public. Where, you know, anybody could have a Facebook page.
Yeah. I remember. So I went into college in 2004. So we had to. We were one of the first schools to get it because we knew someone told us like you have to like we have to get a bunch of email addresses and have everybody on your floor has to request them to add you to Facebook. So I went to Mercyhurst, and they added us in 2005, I think it was. Like we got ourselves added to Facebook because you had to request it. It was crazy.
Yeah, and funny thing is too, today you hear, I say a lot of younger people, kids, things like that. They're like, oh yeah, Facebook's for old people, and I'm like, okay, so what's the new thing? Because I remember MySpace, and I'm like, I'm surprised MySpace is still actually around.
Yeah.
But poor Tom. Yeah, we just all ran off.
Well, you know, whenever you add yourself automatically to everyone's friends list, you're gonna piss some people off.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And hey, but I was gonna say, at least Tom gave us music on our profiles and things like that. Did. You know.
Yeah, and you had.
And we turned our back and ran.
Yeah. That was fucked up. We didn't really respect Tom the way we should have.
Right, yeah. But I was going to say, he got bought out. He's a millionaire now, probably living on some island, you know?
Yeah. Still crouched over that laptop like a gremlin.
Exactly. Oh, man, yeah. I'm still trying to figure out Instagram and things like that for my company. Even though we post on there and X now, Twitter, all that, man, I'll tell you, talk about keeping me on my toes, all the different platforms. And as things change, right? I'm like, oh man, I jump on there and I got to sometimes ask my wife. I'm like, my wife is your age, 10 years younger than me, and I'm like, so hey, how do I do this? I'm like, educate me real quick.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that like depending on what you want your audience to be is like, well, depending on what the platform you want to use is kind of at this point. It's like, you can't, because unless you're a huge corporation that's like has people to like tend to your garden of social media, like if you're people on Instagram, go on Instagram. If you want younger people, you probably go on TikTok or whatever. If you want older people, go on Facebook.
Yeah, because I haven't gotten into the TikTok yet.
Don't do
the
that.
aspect of that. Yeah, and it's one of those things. I have some friends that have done that, and I'm like, you know what? For videos and things like that, I'm still cool with doing Facebook. And hell, at the end of the day, what do we see on Facebook Reels? TikTok. So I'm like, anything I do on Facebook, it's still gonna end up in other places. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, so I already view Instagram as sort of like brain cocaine, whereas like you need to really like I'll post things from like for my business, and then I'll just like try to get off that as fast as possible, because like you keep scrolling, it's like you're getting dopamine hits every time, and it's not really different than like just taking a little snort, and then taking a little snort. And you keep doing it, right? So it's like, if that's cocaine, TikTok is crack.
Yeah.
Those people.
And I was gonna say because it's one of those things where, I mean, even too, when I started looking at some of the reels on Facebook, I catch myself going deeper and deeper and watching more and more, and then I'm like, okay, let me kind of back off for a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly.
Social media, man, keep us on our toes.
Its only job is to keep you looking at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it works.
It totally works.
It's amazing how that happens. Yeah.
And sometimes I have to like, honestly, the arcade games for me really help, because it's like I never thought that pulling your attention onto something like that would be better than paying attention to something like TikTok or whatever. Because I think it is.
Yeah.
Because you're actually included, and you're actually trying to, your brain is doing a thing. You're actually mind body connectioning between, like, trying to solve a puzzle sort of.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things where I look back and I sit here and think everybody said, oh yeah, well computers, like in the 90s when the internet came around, people were like, oh, this can't be good and healthy, and I'm like, today look back at that and I'm like, man, it's pretty healthy for what it does mentally for a lot of people, right? Like, I mean, the positivity aspect, but then there's always the negative side. But yeah, it's definitely something, I mean, that has changed us as a whole, on many levels, and that being addiction and everything else. Because I love getting my reports on my phone. It says, oh yeah, last week you were on an average of 4 hours a day, or 6 hours a day. And you're like, wow, was I really?
Yeah, dude.
It's like all those 15-minute sessions, man, add up.
They sure do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude. So I usually I start off the interview with kind of a general question, and I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
I would probably say Donatello. Even though being Italian and Sicilian, I gotta say all of their names are pretty awesome. So yeah, definitely hard to say one over the others. But yeah, Donatello, he was always the cool one for me, at least as a kid. Loved him, loved his weapon as well. Gotta say that. Thought he was pretty awesome. So yeah.
Also great choice in the games for the kind of general long reach, a lot of power.
Yeah. And I'm 6'4", 230 pounds, so kind of flows together, every day. My spirit, I say animal, I guess, character. Yeah. You can't rely on like speed and quick changes of direction and stuff. You gotta make sure that you're thinking out your move, and you gotta strike hard and hard with power. Yeah. And how about yourself?
Oh, I'm a Leonardo fan of myself.
Okay. Yeah.
I also, so follow-up question. I think that this is like because everyone can be sort of like a personality test. Like, so who is the turtle that you feel works best with either your personality, or if you had to work with somebody like on a project or something, who should their favorite turtle be?
Man, that's a good question. I would probably say Michelangelo. Yeah, I mean, I think that, for me, that whole Donatello part and Michelangelo, those two go together really well. Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like I always picked also Michelangelo.
Yeah.
I guess my theory is that everyone's favorite turtle is either Michelangelo or he's their second favorite turtle. Like, everyone wants to hang out with Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Because it's just he's like the one who goes with all three other turtles.
Yeah. It's definitely something, and as we say that too, I've got a Donatello figure so my brother was in the Marines in the 90s, and I actually got him a Donatello in straight camouflage, and really cool little figure, and he ended up giving it back to me years later as kind of a gift. Nice. Like, hey man, I still got this. And I was like, oh dude, wow. And I've got that sitting, I say, on top of my safe, where I see it all the time, and I'm like, man, even something like that you from so far back then, and the connections with the show, the cartoon, I should say. Hell, even I love the first movie. Second, Secret of the Ooze was good, but the first was still the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, very reminiscent of the 90s and being a kid, and everybody, of course, back then, 80s and 90s, the whole ninja thing was just huge. Everybody wanted to be some type of a ninja or involved with it. So yeah.
Oh, I'm very familiar with that. I actually went to martial arts school for ninjutsu for a year or so, and lots of people wanted to be ninjas, and that was before we were more informed about the history of Japan, and that's not really how that went.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, even sitting here thinking, I told my wife this a couple years ago, I was like, I came across this website. I can't think of what the name of it is, but I had to order a whole bunch of Chinese stars. And she's like, what are you going to do with those? I said, hey, if something ever happens, I've got something I can throw and we can run. Something like, because if somebody sees, a guy throw some Chinese stars or even pull them out, they're probably not going to mess with them.
Yeah, for
I'm now all I need is the nunchucks.
Okay, so real talk though, don't use nunchucks because it's a joke of a weapon. That's a bad idea. You're gonna hurt yourself at least as bad as you hurt anybody else.
Yeah, well, and funny enough, I'll tell you, the one thing I think of is, so back in, I want to say during COVID, we had a customer who wanted a Bruce Lee. So he was basically, he was doing a cabinet skin for Bruce Lee.
Okay.
So we did a pie image for him, and the intro video was Bruce Lee with the nunchucks, the lightsaber nunchucks.
Oh, nice.
And oh my God, man, that thing was amazing. And when I ended up sending it to him, he's like, dude, I was ready to run down the street screaming. I was so happy. And I was like, man, I love to hear it. Now, of course, he's the only one that, in I say the history of man, that's been phenomenal with nunchucks.
Oh, I mean, you can be good, to show them off, and but if you're gonna fight people, for real, using nunchucks is that's a great way to get yourself as hurt. Probably worse than the other person. It's just not a good. There's actually.
Well, I was gonna say I was good with the rubber ones when I was 12. So yeah, it's been way too long for me to even. Yeah, if I had them, I would probably throw a couple stars at them, throw the nunchucks, and then yeah,
as a throwing
weapon,
pull out
a baseball bat. Yeah, I'm gonna say call some cousins up, man. Open up a trunk, get some baseball bats. Yeah, that'll finish it up.
Way easier.
Exactly.
Way safer.
I'm hey, you got to stick to the blood,
Yeah. Your sticks should be all one piece.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Yeah. And who doesn't run around with at Christmas time, as you say that, with the stick, wrapping paper tubes after you run out of it?
Oh.
Who doesn't sword fight?
Oh, yeah.
I'm almost 50 and I'm still doing that.
Yeah. What else are you gonna do with them? It's your responsibility to help to recycle them by breaking them down by using them to beat the shit out of other people.
Exactly. Well, and I even said to my wife, I'm gonna kind of make you laugh. You can see the Star Wars cabinet, and I've got the lightsabers back there on the wall. So I told her, I said, hey, the great thing about it is if anybody were to ever break in, I'm going to throw a couple of throwing stars, I'm going to grab the lightsabers, and if you got a guy running at you like that, they're going to run.
So I'll show you. I also have a lightsaber right here, but this is yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a very powerful laser actually. So
okay.
It would be it's blindingly bright. So like it's good for like getting if the power were to go out, lighting up the room. But also like if you if you were to shine in someone's face, it would be devastating in the dark. So yeah, it's like.
So it's great for somebody wearing night vision that tries to come in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I would not pity that person. Like they're probably going to be blinded maybe forever.
Right. Hey, that's a good thing. I might need one of those.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
And cool. There we go. I was going to say. Yeah, because that's one of those things. My wife, when I started getting these lightsabers, she's like, "What are you going to do with those?" I said, "You never know when they're going to come in handy. Society collapses. You got a guy running down the street with a ghost face mask and a lightsaber, you're probably not going to mess with them."
Yeah, or if you have to go on like some trek across the wilderness, like you might need like an extra light.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, God forbid you get a bear, a deer.
Right,
They're not going to come close to you with a lightsaber.
Yep, makes noise. Yeah, it's like loud and shit. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly, yeah. And I was going to say, I have a Darth Maul as well, the double blade. Nice. And that's one of those ones I can't have enough fun because unfortunately when I put the blades in, it's way too big for the house, so I have to go outside. Then my dogs look at me like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "Okay, leave him out there. We'll stay over here."
They're like, "I'm staying young. This is good for my soul."
Exactly. It's funny because even thinking to... people used to say, Gen X, "Oh, yeah, y'all are never going to grow up." We still have it. And you know what? I love it.
And guess what? A lot of the Gen Xers I know look not as old as they are. Especially compared to the people before.
Yeah, so, I mean, even for me, so unfortunately, I'm a smoker. When I go to the store and I buy cigarettes, I would say 9 out of 10 times, they're like, "Do you have your ID?" And my response is, "Seriously?" They're like, "Yes, sir." I'm like, "Okay, you can clearly tell I'm over 21, right?" And it was funny. A few days ago, I come walking out of the store laughing, and my wife's like, What's so funny?" And I said, "So the young lady asked me for my ID, and my response was, 'Are you serious?' And I told her, I said, 'I'm 47. And she said, 'No, you're not.' I said, 'Yes, ma'am, I am.' And she looked at me. She's like, 'I need your ID.' So I gave her my ID, and she goes, 'Oh, you are 47. I said, "Yes, ma'am." I'm like, and I'm sitting here thinking, do I need to let like grays grow in here or something? Luckily, knock on wood as I say, my beard has not grayed out yet. But I think that's because, when you're youthful and all that, it helps out, And my 17-month-old hasn't stressed me out yet.
Yeah, man. I honestly like the stress. I think is a huge factor. Like my friends who deal with a lot of stress, they tend to look not as youthful as people who I know who are lucky enough to be able to relax more.
Yeah, and even one thing I posted the other day on my Facebook was 8 pictures of old TV shows, right? And I'm sure you've seen Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
Okay, so the father was 48. I'm like, oh my God, I thought he was like 60.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about how old he was. Wow, he was only 40. Wow. Yeah,
48, yeah, and I think, you ever seen All in the Family?
Yeah.
Okay, so the guy Archie on that was, I believe, 44?
Carol Channing was
40. So, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like,
wow.
Thank God. And I just attributed that to me being Italian, having oiled skin, and I was like, hey, it keeps me looking young.
Man, he looked like he was in his like mid-60s in that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I was just like, holy smokes, man. I mean, that definitely, I say it was a little bit of a reality check, but then I'm like, okay, this is why I get ID for buying things.
Yeah. And actually, I was watching a video. It was a YouTube video about. It was just like a travel video, and they were in the middle of the Appalachians, and they were talking to these two guys at the gas station, and these guys. I assumed they were in there probably like early 30s. Both of them were almost 50, and the one guy was 50, and I was like, holy shit! Like, I do live in the future. Like, those guys are 50. Those guys, I didn't think they were. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I say too, I think a lot of it is, I say the foods and things we do, the way we take care of ourselves compared to how they used to.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. My dad used to always tell me, though, as a kid, he was like, just being Italian, he's like, the great thing about it is Italians and black people, we don't age because we're so oily. And as a kid, I never understood it. Now I'm like, oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Thank God I was so oily from all the Italian foods as a kid. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too. I love to say that to black women too, because they'll laugh. They laugh their asses off at it, and I'm like, we're here.
Having good genetic, advantages is its own reward.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's something. And plus too, having a wife that's 10 years younger, that helps out. I say that keeps me youthful. Having, I say, a newborn, 17 months old, that also helps out because, man, I don't feel like I'm 47. Luckily, even my body, and I think because I'm constantly moving and doing things, my body, most people say, oh, when you hit 40, your body starts to fall apart. I'm like, okay, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting. I don't get up in the morning and have to roll out of bed yet.
Yeah.
I don't have like all the back issues or whatever. Now, God forbid, if I tried to run, I would probably throw out a hip. But we'll just avoid that for a while.
Well, you're a tall guy too. That's different. Like you're dealing with a lot more. Like if you're looking at like a percentage-wise of our lives, like the amount of like stress you're dealing with is much greater than most people.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because in one of those things too, still working with my hands and things like that, it definitely, I think, helps out. At the end of the day, I'm constantly, my body's in motion. Yeah. It's that old saying, a body in motion stays in motion. Yep. So, yeah. So I never take vacations.
Yeah.
Although, my wife would say it's because I don't like to travel, but hey.
No one can blame me on that one, though. Traveling's not always a lot of fun.
Well, and being in Texas too, it's like my wife asked me if you could, live anywhere else, where would you live? And I said, another part of Texas. I'm like, hey, that's as far as I'm going. I'm totally cool with staying in this state, So
I've never been to Texas before. However, I just watched this interesting video where someone did it was like a group did a study, like a think tank did a study of like what are the actual freest states in the United States, like as far as just laws and what you're allowed to do and stuff.
Yeah.
And so all the ones that you would think would say that they're the freest, as you may have predicted, are the least free.
Yes. Oh yeah.
They have the most restrictive laws.
Right. Yeah.
Which I guess maybe shouldn't be surprising, but I thought that was really funny. It was like, no, the data actually proves this is true.
Yeah. Well, and even too, like during COVID, it was, I say, kind of a reality check for us. I'll tell you, most of our business during COVID, and it was insane. I mean, we were doing 40 to 50 orders a month, each month that entire year. I mean, it was just, it was insane. It was Christmas all year round.
Yeah.
And even most of our customers were coming from California, Illinois, New York, and then Florida was a big chunk of that as well. But it was literally a reality check when people were like, oh man, how's life down there? And I'm like, well, we haven't even shut down. They're like, what? I'm like, y'all can't go out to eat? Like, you can't go to a store? They're like, no, everybody's closed. And I'm like, what do you mean? But yeah, Texas, of course, was a little different. Houston was definitely different. We were one of the few that they did try to shut us down. But the people at the end of the day were like, sorry, no, we're not going to lose out on our livelihoods and things like that. But it was a really big eye-opening thing to see what other states were doing and going through. I mean, man, I felt bad for a lot of customers. But at the end of the day, it also allowed them to get back into this hobby, which they, haven't been able to. I mean, that was a game changer from then to now.
Yeah. And especially people getting like money and stuff, I'm assuming a lot of it was able to, it's like, well, we're not doing anything. We got money coming in. We might as well upgrade our arcade setup.
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah. And, even too, I will say there's several customers that, have become really good friends just over the years from COVID. I mean, it was definitely something that we built some phenomenal relationships with people. And especially as I say that, a lot of people from Cali. Cali was kind of a big chunk of that. But yeah, it was, you know, a weird time, but it also showed us too how different each state is.
Yeah.
Kind of going into that, what we feel like as human nature is a free state. We really don't know how good or bad we have it until you talk to others in other states. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. Since you're in your experience of doing working with arcade stuff, there has to be like games that maybe you weren't aware of that have been brought to your attention, either from like other people going through and playing them. Can you give me a couple ones that like maybe you come to your favorites that you were like, I didn't even know that was a game and it's fucking awesome?
Yeah. One to start off with is Demon Front. Demon Front, which is an arcade game, is just phenomenal. It's almost like a Metal Slug, but it's more of a demon type of game.
Yeah.
That one is pretty awesome. Even outside of that, there is a light gun game called Golgo, Golgo 13.
Okay.
It's a sniper game. It's a Japanese sniper game. And it's almost like Hitman, but oh man, it is phenomenal. Like you have somebody who's in a plane taking off and you're in a building and you have to snipe them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it's one of those that, you know, I never would have found. A lot of games, I will say, that have been kind of introduced to me are more of the Japanese type of games. The Japanese games, like even Demon Front, it's actually a game from China. It's a kind of a clone game that was in Asia. But yeah, both of those are pretty awesome. Golgo 13 especially, and when you get the light gun kit, check it out. It's on there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's the cool thing about it too is with the gun, you use the cocking mechanism to actually, you know, zoom in on the scope. Oh man. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, there's one part of it where you have a couple walk and you have to shoot her heel.
Yeah.
And you have to literally snipe the heel. Of course, if you hit her leg or something, then you have to do it over. But yeah, Golgo 13, man, is a pretty awesome game.
Okay.
And then outside of that, there is a weird, I don't want to call it explicit, but it's kind of explicit. There's one for the Atari 2600 that a customer had to have, and it was called Custer's Revenge.
Okay.
And I won't go into too much detail about it, but if you ever get a chance, Google that one. It's very interesting. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
But yeah, those are probably I'd say most extreme, right? Like just different, like things you just never thought you would come across.
So is that one on the one that I already have, or the one that will be on the?
It's
the light gun.
Well, yeah, the one that you have right now, it should be the Custer's Revenge, I believe, is on that one.
Okay.
Because this was somebody, I believe, back in 2021 that asked for that game.
Okay.
The newer one you're getting will have, of course, all three of those. Yeah, nice. So you'll have some fun, and I'm looking forward to some feedback on that Golgo 13 one.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think you're gonna love that, man.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll let you know how I feel. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully,
because
it's all good.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say, I mean, the one thing is too, when you get in and you actually check those out, you're just gonna be like, wow, you know. I mean, even as I say that, I've had some customers that have mentioned other Japanese games, and I'm like, I don't even know how to spell that, but I'm like, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's funny, you know, you don't realize, like, we've done some, I say images for Boys and Girls Clubs, things like that. Mm-hmm. And we have a customer, his name is Ulysses, and we've done probably 4 or 5 for him. Mm-hmm. And the one thing he always says is, hey, I need to make sure there's no violence on the images. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I got you covered. I'm like, how's Street Fighter? You know, animated violence. Is that good?
Yeah.
But, yeah. Other than that, you know, it's something you always kind of come across stuff that is just out of the box, you know. So, and as I say that too, I mean, even my arcades, they pretty much run through like screensavers, right? So you have videos of all these games that are popping up. Yeah. And for me, sometimes I'm looking over and I'm like, hey, what is that? So I run over and I try to hit start on the control panel to check out the game that I'm seeing on the screen. So yeah, but A 15,000, yeah. There's quite a few on there. Keep people on their toes, you know. Kind of throw you some different scenarios and games.
I've had the exact same experience where I'm over across the room, like, what is that? I got to get over there before, like, because I don't know what the title is, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'll ever find it again, but it looks cool. I got to play it right now.
Yeah, and actually, you know what's funny as you say that? There's been a time of where I didn't have, like, starting with the Pi 4s, the videos really don't show the names of the games. So then I went back in and I was like, okay, let me enable at least the name of the game.
Right.
Because it got to a point where I was seeing so many games that I'm like, oh man, what is that? And then trying to match it and find it is impossible.
Right.
You know, it's like taking a picture and going to Google Lens and find me this game. Yeah, so definitely keep me on my toes.
Absolutely. That was I think that's about an hour worth of time. That's I think a pretty nice session. Hopefully you had a good time talking. I really appreciate you being being on, taking the time.
Oh man, hey, I appreciate you having me on, and definitely thanks for inviting me. And if it's ever in the future, I would love to do it again, man. I think that we could talk for hours and hours on end. So
absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Cool, and let me know what you think once you get the light gun kit as well. And obviously, if you ever need anything on that level too, let me know.
Thank you. Yeah, and so I can't for the audience. Santino's service for his company is fantastic. Any issues have always been addressed, and just really great service. So I can say that myself. And would you like to give any plug the website? Tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah. So our website is upgradearcade.com. We're also on Facebook, which is facebook.com/upgradearcade. So we sell everything from arcade pedestals, mod kits, portable gaming systems. We have i4 gaming systems, handheld gaming systems. I mean, you name it, we've got it. So definitely check us out. You know, jump on Facebook, give us a like, follow us. And if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. We're always here to help and answer any questions. You know, nothing is kind of too much of a newbie question or anything like that. We're always here.
All right. Well, all right. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks again to Santino for being on the show, and we will see you next time.